Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So for today's video, we are looking at this drop dead gorgeous beauty of a watch from Sugess. I unboxed this a few weeks ago along with another Sugess watch, and of course now it's time for me to follow up with the full review. Now I have to say the majority of this video is going to be just us looking at this beautiful dial, because I have to say, and I hope you guys agree, that this is hands down the most beautiful dial offered on Aliexpress today. Now the watch uses something called Blue Goldstone as the material for the dial. Now that material, all we need to know is that it's a man-made crystal using a couple of elements. I think manganese is one of them. So I'm not going to go into the details, but what we need to look at is the effect that we have in front of us. Now we have all seen aventurine dials. We've seen them on the Zelos watches. Christopher Ward also coming out with some aventurine watches. However, I think this is slightly different to aventurine. I feel this is just far more denser in terms of, the glitter, or let's call it the stars that you see. It's got way more density of the stars on the dial, because in comparison to aventurine, that has slightly less, but this is just jam packed, just full of shimmering, starry, glitterish, crystals or whatever it is. And this makes this the most dynamic dial I've ever seen. Throughout all the various positions and angles, you just keep seeing an infinity amount of stars and shimmers, and it's just amazing to look at. And it's, again, quite captivating. You could look at this literally all day and just see how that dial sparkles through different angles. And yeah, I absolutely love it. Now I have seen these overly simplistic watches before, and up until getting this, I didn't really know how you would tell time and how is it practical. But having this in hand, you understand the concept a lot more, because it's not about anything else except pure simplicity. Of course, you can tell the time, roughly where it's at, but this thing is a thing of beauty rather than practicality, which is why it's absent of anything except the logo at 12. Now let's go over the specifications briefly. Now you've got a domed or a box style sapphire crystal, which does absolute wonders for this dial. It really does complement it. You've got some AR coating, which you can see. Now AR coating generally, when it's blue and it's a bit excessive, does really hinder the appearance of the dial in my opinion, but that's with things you need to read. With this particular dial, it does have a very deep, bluey violet hue. So this blue AR does, I feel anyway, does give it a slight compliment. You also have a 50 meters of water resistance, but this is not, for you to be taken in the water. Just look how beautiful it is. And it also has a push-pull crown and a screw-down case back, and it houses something quite nice. It houses the Seagull ST2130 high beat movement. Now, Sugess are the absolute stars of Seagull movements. They have introduced us single-handedly to some of the most not well-known, well-built and reliable Seagull movements. Now, this one is no different. It's running extremely well on the time grapher, very close to a 0 rate a day, also quite healthy amplitude and a near perfect beat error. Now, since we're talking about the movement, let's take a closer look at it. With the ST2130, it is a clone to the ETA 2824, and they've also dressed this movement up quite nicely. You can see some pearlage on the chassis, and the rotor itself does have some Côte de Genève type of styling to it, or decoration, which does look good. It doesn't look cheap or nasty or tacky at all. It actually does suit the watch. Also, with a higher beat of movement, you'll see a slightly smoother tick to that second hand. Now, this is not the only version you can get from Sugess. They also do offer a calendar version with a moon phase complication. That is a nice watch. So that's if you want something just a bit more to look at on the dial. You have a calendar function at the 12, 2 windows which give you the date, and you also have a moon phase above the 6, which does actually illuminate, and that is its own unique look, and it does look really nice. Now, in terms of strap options, this particular one came with this blue Dow Croc style strap. It's fairly nice. You've got genuine leather on the back, and it does feel like genuine leather. You got quick release bars, but I'm not one for Croc style straps, and I find these are rather stiff, and they do take a few weeks to kind of bed in properly. Now, I don't find these Croc straps on their website or on their listing. What I can see is an improved leather strap in my opinion, and the grain is much softer on there, and it looks like it's going to be quite supple. And that's the one you actually want to go for, because you want good conformity from these leather straps. As you can see here, it's, like I said, it's a bit stiff, so it sits rather straight if you have smaller wrists. We have to come back to this dial once again. Now this dial again is so incredible to look at, and the domed box style sapphire crystal again does wonders. Now I did take this dial outside. Now unfortunately it's not sunny anymore in the UK. It is rather grim and dull and it's raining a lot, but outdoors I felt this dial isn't that great. I mean, it doesn't pop like it does indoors. I do prefer this dial in indoor lighting. As you can see, the lighting in this, in this room gives you a really good look at the dial, and it's just continuously just shimmering, giving you different depths, and yeah, very dynamic. It's just jam packed, full of stars. And the handset used on this is okay. I mean, it's not flat, you can see some curvature to them. These are leaf style hands, but at certain angles they do disappear, but the second hand stays there, which I think is okay. It actually adds to the beauty slightly. I mean, like I said, at this certain angle you can just see the second hand, so it's even more simplistic. Just give it a little turn and you can see the normal handset. Now I do have a criticism, and that is off the logo. I feel it's a little too white. I mean, it's a nice enough logo, but I would have preferred it if it was, let's say, silver, and I think that would have complemented it just a little more. Now moving on to the case, again, a nice feature of the watch. If you look at the fixed bezel, it is fully polished. And then you've got these beautiful lugs with some really nice downtones along the side, very softly brushed, satinized brushing, and overall I really like the case shape. Another feature which just stand out on this case is this lovely crown. It's got some great grip on there, and so even for a smaller crown, you don't lose any grip, and it is really easy to wind. Now it is a pull-out crown, and it does also feature a ghost movement, because the ST2130 is a dated movement and they haven't done anything to remove that position 1. You have the S on the crown, and I wish they would change this S and have a more stylized S like they have, for example, on the logo. I think this is just very basic. Now, in terms of dimensions, it's got really decent proportions. You've got a 38mm case at the diameter. You also have a thickness of 12.5mm, which is a little thick, but that box style sapphire does add a couple of millimeters to that. You also have a lug to lug of just 48.5, which is probably slightly disproportionate to the 38mm lug to the 38mm diameter. However, it's nice because the lugs are slightly elongated and they do have that downturn towards the end. And you also have a lug width of 20mm and an overall weight of 63 grams, which is barely anything. So a very beautiful watch from Sugess. I like most things on it, like I said, with just very minor criticisms on, for example, the logo. But aside from that, everything else is just purely stunning. It's priced well as well at just under £200, and considering specifications with the high beat movement, which is running really well on this particular model, I think that's a good price. And also the calendar one, I believe it's in around the same price or maybe a bit cheaper, but you do also get a moon phase and a date function, and that's also pretty well thought out. So you do have a couple of options with this. Now on wrist, the watch does wear incredibly well. It's got a 38mm case, as I mentioned, and those lugs do reach out to the ends of the wrist. One thing for me, as I mentioned when I was talking about the strap, that this croc leather strap is a little stiff. I really haven't given it enough time for it to wear in. So on the other straps that you do have options available for, that should wear a lot better. But yeah, it's a good size on wrist, and again, that starry dial, that is the main thing about this watch, and it does stand out on wrist and it looks beautiful. So that's it for me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed that review. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.